Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the disability community.
Of course. So my name is Brooke. I am from the East Coast and I'm an occupational therapist. I always knew I wanted to work in healthcare, but I didn't find occupational therapy until I was at my undergraduate studies, where they had healthcare professionals come in and talk to all the students about what they did. And when the OT came in, I was like, this is it. They taught us about how they work with, students and adults and all different populations on like assistive technology and adaptive equipment in order to increase functional independence in their lives. So that's how I came across the role of occupational therapy. And that is where I am today.
All right, cool. So tell me a little bit about your work in home modification and how you like and accessibility, what's that all about?
Of course. So previously, I worked in an outpatient and a hospital setting, and I just started this new journey of working in home modifications. It's kind of an up and coming area of occupational therapy, which I love, but basically, it's for anyone, whether it's someone aging in place, someone that's had a disability their entire life, or someone that maybe had a fall and can't return home. We help with modifications. So, what I do is I receive a client's information and then I go in and I do a formal assessment where I kind of look at everything, from what they do on a daily basis to things they're not able to do because of their disability and their home setup. And then I recommend things I would modify in their home to increase their independence. So, for example, like a simple example would be if I had a client who was, an aging adult and they were having difficulty walking and they had, a set of stairs in their house to their bedroom, I would probably recommend a chairlift or some kind of device so that they can access these areas in their home without having to leave their home.
Yeah, that's cool. So like when looking at whether to like modify a home, like what sorts of things do you look for when like making the home accessible for someone, whether it's an old elderly adult or someone with a pre-existing condition? By that I mean cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, or any major condition that they may have. So like what do you do to like what do you like evaluate in terms of like looking what do you look for to in order to like make the home more accessible for the individual?
Of course, that's a great question. So it is a complex process because I kind of have to look at a little bit of everything. But before I even look in the home, I kind of sit down with the client and the caregiver or loved one or whoever's available. And I kind of just do a general history, kind of get to know them, understand, what they're dealing with. And I also kind of look at everything in their past medical history, any history of falls, recent hospitalizations, any other conditions I should be aware of. And then I also, look at things that they enjoy doing or that they need to do and that they're having difficulty with. And then based off all of these things, I also kind of take into account things like their range of motion, their executive functioning skills, their safety, their endurance, their balance as I'm, observing them. And if I notice anything that's very, crucial, like they lost their balance with me or something's very like not safe, I would recommend like, a formal PT eval or some other discipline. But then I would also just focus on the modifications from my standpoint. So I would probably, for example, start in the bathroom and, maybe recommend if it was someone at fall risk, like a shower chair or some grab bars, looking at removing area rugs and things like that, increasing light sources. So just kind of looking at all areas of the home and taking notes. And my company is also wonderful. They use an app called Canvas where we actually do like a 3D simulation of their home so that if we are making recommendations for our contractors, we can show them the actual images and what we would install from our perspective. So that gives them a good idea when they go in what to do for the client.
hmm How long does it take for like a home to be modified? Because I know like in my household there are like for example in my bathroom there are no like handlebars or anything like that. But just like on average, how long does it take for like a home to be completely modified? to the client's individual needs?
That is a very good question. So it all depends. So for example, let's say they only need like one or two minor things installed, right? Like a grab bar and a toilet seat. That might be, a one or two time visit from the contractor, and my company likes to do that, as soon as they can. So once my documentation's done, they follow up within the week of me visiting the family. But let's say it is someone that has more complex needs or wants to do more of their home if they're, able to afford that and think that it's the best thing to suit them, which we love because if you can, increase independence in all areas of your home all at once, it's safer and it's better for you. That can take a few months, to be honest. Some people even need like elevators, different things that we might have to have someone come in and, actually do construction and figure out the best way to approach that. So every client is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My next question here is, what sorts of tools and strategies do you use to like make the home accessible? I know you talked about grab bars and that a little bit, but just generally speaking, what sorts of things do you use to like make it accessible, make the home more accessible?
Of course. So there's a lot, like a large variety. So grab bars is definitely a big one. I would also say trying to think, there's so many commodes, different kind of toilet seats for the toilet is a big one too, and shower chairs. Some people get like a built-in shower chair, or some just get the shower chair that you see on like Amazon or other websites that, is you can take it out or put it in. It's not permanent. Then we also have, even just handrails on stairwells. Some families don't have that and they might need that for their balance. Even little things like if someone has a low vision deficit or a fall risk, color contrast is a big thing. So incorporating like tape on the stairs so that you can see where each step is, adding little labels on items, some textile cues, like if someone uses the stove and they're not able to see what the buttons are, if you have different little textile markers, they can feel which one does what. That's one of my favorites because safety in the home is so important. Um, Automatic lights is a big one for anyone with disabilities. A lot of people have to get up in the middle of the night or, when the weather's changing and it's getting darker outside. Having those lighted pathways is really important so that it decreases the risks of any injury or falls. And even just other basic things that we might not think about, is like adding in a flatter pathway outside versus stairs, like a ramp or ramps inside, if that's something that's doable. So looking at everything, and I can go on for hours about different things, but those are a lot of the main things that I could think of off the top of my head that help clients become more accessible in their homes.
Mm-hmm. Lastly, how can modifying homes, lead to greater outcomes for people with disabilities? How can it sort of allow individuals with disabilities to sort of gain that independence, autonomy?
Of course. So it allows them to kind of either do things they haven't been able to or return to things that they're not able to do previously. So, for example, anything they enjoy doing or need to do, showering, going to the bathroom, cooking, sitting, with loved ones. We look at all these areas and, make sure that our modifications are allowing them to be able to do these things. Also, focusing on safety while we make these modifications because a lot of individuals are at a higher risk of falls, as I mentioned earlier. So I think that home modifications not only increases independence, but it increases safety and prevents further injury from happening. And I see that a lot of times in this country, a lot of families don't have home modifications done or realize this is an option. So a lot of older individuals end up in either adult day programs or short-term rehabs. And sometimes it's not by choice. Sometimes it's like we can't get them in and out of our home. We have to have them here. So that's another huge thing is it allows for the individual to be in the place that they love with the ones that they love. So it also helps with, their mental health, their emotional health. So it's an all around wonderful thing that I think everyone could benefit from.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.